The diplomatic vessel of the Galactic Alliance approached Earth with caution. Its sleek silver hull reflected the sun as it descended through the atmosphere. Inside, 12 representatives from different alien species prepared for humanity's official welcome to the interstellar community. Ambassador Zarak adjusted his ceremonial robes. As a Vestilian, he stood nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent blue skin that shimmered when he moved. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he reviewed the first contact protocols one final time. "Remember," he told his team, "humans are a young species. They only achieved space travel 2 centuries ago. They will be nervous, perhaps even frightened. Our job is to ease them into the galactic community with patience and understanding." The other representatives nodded or made equivalent gestures according to their physiology. The group included representatives from across the Alliance, from the crystalline Phoros to the gaseous Mithrans contained in special environment suits. "Telemetry confirms we will land in 3 minutes," announced the ship's pilot. "The humans have prepared a landing zone as requested." Ambassador Zarak looked out the viewport at the approaching landscape. The ship was heading toward a remote area in Wyoming, flat open land with mountains visible in the distance. The Alliance had chosen this location to minimize exposure to large human populations for this initial meeting. "Vital signs stable. Atmospheric composition within tolerance parameters," reported the medical officer, a squat reptilian Kralax named Vex. "Slight elevation in oxygen levels compared to standard, but nothing our systems can't handle." The ship touched down with barely a tremor. A small group of humans waited about 50 yards from the landing site. They stood beside several vehicles with the United Earth Government insignia painted on their sides. "Remember your training," said Ambassador Zarak as the ship's ramp extended. "We represent nearly 1,000 species today." The alien delegation descended the ramp in formation. The Wyoming air felt cool against their various skin types and breathing apparatuses. Some made minor adjustments to their environmental suits, but all had been thoroughly prepared for Earth conditions. Dr. Ethan Miller stepped forward from the human group. His heart pounded in his chest, but his voice remained steady when he spoke. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, I welcome you to our world," he said. His words translated by a small device attached to his collar. "I am Dr. Ethan Miller, lead xenobiologist for the United Earth Government." A woman in a military uniform stood beside him. "Captain Linda Wright, United Earth Defense Force," she said with a crisp nod. Ambassador Zarak stepped forward and raised his upper limbs in the traditional Vestilian greeting. "I am Ambassador Zarak of the Vestilian Empire, speaking for the Galactic Alliance. We come in peace and friendship." The humans and aliens approached each other slowly. Dr. Miller extended his hand in the human greeting gesture called a handshake. Ambassador Zarak had studied this custom and carefully gripped the human's hand. "Your world is beautiful," said Zarak. "We have observed your civilization with great interest." "We have much to learn from the Alliance," Dr. Miller replied. "This is a historic day for humanity." The group moved to a nearby tent that had been set up for the meeting. Inside were 2 sets of chairs, standard human chairs on one side and specially designed seats for the various alien physiologies on the other. A table in the center held sealed containers of water and other refreshments deemed safe for all species. Captain Wright activated recording devices as Dr. Miller began the formal introductions. Each alien representative stepped forward, stated their name, species, and homeworld. The humans watched with barely contained awe as creatures of incredible diversity greeted them. "We bring gifts," said Ambassador Zarak after the introductions. He gestured and his assistants brought forward several containers. "Knowledge primarily, star charts of local systems, historical records of the Alliance, and basic scientific data we believe will benefit your people." Dr. Miller accepted the gifts with appropriate formality. "And we offer these tokens of Earth," he said, presenting a collection of items that represented human culture, art, and technology. The meeting progressed smoothly for 28 minutes. Then Ambassador Zarak paused mid-sentence. His secondary breathing flaps fluttered rapidly, a sign of distress that the humans did not recognize. He reached for his throat, his blue skin turning a sickly gray. Ambassador? Dr. Miller asked, concerned. Are you all right? Zarak collapsed to the floor. Almost immediately, other members of the alien delegation began showing signs of distress. The Mithran's containment suit clouded as its gaseous form swirled in apparent agony. The crystalline Phoros developed cracks across its surface. Emergency. Medical response, Captain Wright shouted into her communicator. All personnel, emergency protocols. Vex, the medical officer, managed to activate a scanner before slumping against the table. Atmospheric contamination, he gasped. Unknown toxin, affecting all systems. The aliens began retreating toward their ship, some carrying fallen comrades. 3 lay motionless on the ground, already beyond help. Dr. Miller tried to assist, but the aliens recoiled from his touch. Please, he said, let us help you. Stay back, warned one of the aliens still able to speak. You are the source. In confusion and panic, the surviving Alliance representatives made it back to their ship. The ramp closed behind them as emergency decontamination procedures engaged automatically. Captain Wright and Dr. Miller watched helplessly as the alien vessel lifted off, leaving 3 dead aliens behind. The entire first contact had lasted less than 40 minutes. What happened? Captain Wright asked, her face pale with shock. I don't know, Dr. Miller replied. He looked down at the alien bodies with growing horror. Something killed them. Something about us or this place. An hour later, the Alliance ship sent a transmission from high orbit. The message was brief and terrifying. Quarantine this world. Humans are toxic. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Humanity had finally made contact with alien life, only to discover they were deadly to every known species in the galaxy. In his laboratory at the United Earth Government Research Facility, Dr. Miller worked frantically to understand what had happened. Initial tests on the alien bodies revealed cellular breakdown similar to severe poisoning. But poisoned by what? 5 days after the disastrous meeting, a researcher named Olivia Reed made the connection. She burst into Dr. Miller's office waving data tablets. It's us, she said, our breath. The carbon dioxide we exhale contains trace compounds that are highly toxic to their biology. Every time we breathed near them, we were poisoning them. Dr. Miller stared at the data in disbelief. Are you certain? I've run the tests 3 times, Olivia confirmed. Something in human respiration is deadly to all the alien physiologies we've examined. It's like nothing they've ever encountered in the galaxy. Dr. Miller sank into his chair. We're a biohazard, he whispered. Our very existence is a threat to all other intelligent life. In orbit, the Alliance Council received the findings from their own scientists, reaching the same conclusion. Emergency sessions were called as species across the galaxy faced an unprecedented situation, a sentient species that could kill them just by breathing. The diplomatic bridge humanity had hoped to cross had become an impassable chasm in the span of minutes. First contact had become first catastrophe, and no one knew if there was any way forward. The question hung in the air like a cloud. How could humanity join a galaxy where their mere presence was lethal? 6 months had passed since the disastrous first contact. Earth governments had united in an unprecedented way, forming the Human Response Coalition to address the crisis. Scientists from around the world worked day and night to understand why human breath was toxic to alien life. Dr. Susan Garcia stared at the molecular model rotating on her computer screen. The lab around her buzzed with activity as researchers analyzed samples and ran tests. As head of biochemistry at Northwestern University, she had been recruited to lead the scientific investigation. I think I found something, she said, mostly to herself. She zoomed in on a particular compound structure. This shouldn't be here. Her assistant, Alan Nguyen, looked up from his microscope. What did you find? Susan pointed to the screen. This molecular chain. It's unique to humans. We produce it naturally as part of our respiratory process. But it's not just carbon dioxide. There's something else mixed in. Something we never noticed because it's harmless to us. But deadly to them. Alan finished her thought. Susan nodded. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she now knew by heart. Get me Dr. Miller. I've found the toxic element. 2 days later, Susan stood before the United Nations Security Council. 50 stern faces looked back at her as she explained her findings. The compound is produced in our lungs, she said, pointing to a diagram projected on the large screen behind her. It's a complex molecular structure that our bodies have evolved alongside for thousands of years. To us, it's completely harmless. To alien physiologies, it's a powerful neurotoxin. How powerful? Asked a council member. Based on the autopsy results from the 3 alien bodies, exposure for just 30 minutes was enough to cause death. Lesser exposures cause various symptoms ranging from dizziness to organ failure. The council room fell silent as the implications sank in. So what you're saying, said the Secretary General slowly, is that we are walking biological weapons. In essence, yes, Susan replied. Our normal breathing makes us deadly to every known species in the Alliance database. And there's no way to change this? No medicine or treatment? Another council member asked. Susan shook her head. Not yet. We're looking at options, but this is literally how our bodies function. It would be like asking us to stop producing blood. As the meeting continued on Earth, another crucial discussion was taking place millions of miles away. Aboard the Alliance research vessel Eternal Curiosity, Chief Science Officer Glivtic faced a screen showing the faces of the Alliance Council. As a Cordolian, he resembled a tall, slender humanoid with gray skin and large, lidless eyes. His species was known for its scientific achievements and calm reasoning. The humans are a unique case, Glivtic explained to the Council. In all our explorations, we have never encountered a species whose normal biological functions are toxic to others. Then perhaps they should not exist, said Counselor Drax, his reptilian features tight with anger. 3 of our diplomats died. The humans are too dangerous to be allowed into the galactic community. I disagree, Glivtic replied firmly. Humans did not evolve this trait to harm us. It is simply biological incompatibility on a scale we've never seen before. They are as surprised by this discovery as we are. Surprised or not, they remain a threat, said another counselor. What if their breath can be weaponized? What if they decide to use it against us? That is exactly why we should continue dialogue, Glivtic argued. Isolation will only breed fear and mistrust on both sides. With proper precautions, we can maintain contact while searching for a solution. The debate raged for hours. Some Alliance species demanded immediate action against Earth, ranging from permanent quarantine to more extreme measures. Others, led by Glivtic, pushed for patience and scientific cooperation. Finally, the Council reached a decision. You have 1 planetary cycle, the Council leader told Glivtic. Find a way for humans to interact safely with the rest of us, or more permanent measures will be considered. 1 planetary cycle meant roughly 2 Earth years. The clock was ticking. Back on Earth, international cooperation had reached unprecedented levels. A special facility was established in Geneva, Switzerland, where Dr. Garcia now led a team of scientists from 27 countries. They worked alongside holographic projections of Alliance scientists in what became known as Project Breathe. The challenge, Susan explained to her team during their first full meeting, is finding a way to neutralize the toxic compound without harming humans. We either need to stop our bodies from producing it, filter it before it's exhaled, or find a way to protect other species from its effects. The work was slow and frustrating. Early prototypes of breathing masks that filtered the toxin also filtered too much oxygen, making them impractical for long-term use. Attempts to modify the human respiratory system with drugs had dangerous side effects. Meanwhile, tensions within the Alliance continued to grow. Several militant factions began arguing that humans were simply too dangerous to exist. They viewed Earth not as a potential ally, but as a biological threat that needed to be contained or eliminated. These factions sent unofficial messages to Earth governments, their threats thinly veiled as warnings. Your biology makes your extinction inevitable, read one such message intercepted by Earth intelligence agencies. The universe cannot accommodate your kind, Earth's military leaders took these threats seriously. Defense systems were upgraded, and plans were drafted for how humanity might defend itself against technologically superior attackers. The Human Response Coalition diverted significant resources to developing space-based weapons platforms and planetary shields. Dr. Miller worried that these preparations might only escalate tensions. He arranged a secure video conference with Glivtik, whom he had come to respect during their scientific exchanges. "Some of my people are afraid," Ethan admitted to the alien scientist. "They're beginning to see your alliance as a threat rather than a potential friend." "The same is happening here," Glivtik replied, his large eyes blinking slowly. "Fear is a powerful force across all species, it seems." "Susan Garcia's team is making progress," Ethan said, "but we need more time. Time is one resource that may be running out," Glivtik warned. "The council gave us one cycle, but pressure is building for earlier action." Neither said what both were thinking, that their respective civilizations might be heading toward a conflict that neither wanted, but neither could avoid. As the first year of research continued, a new complication arose. Earth scientists discovered that the toxic compound in human breath was actually changing, adapting in response to their attempts to neutralize it. It was as if the human body sensed the efforts to alter its chemistry and was fighting back. "It's linked to our immune system somehow," Susan told her team after another failed test. "Every time we try to block it, our bodies find a way around." The blockage. The implications were troubling. The very feature that made humans deadly to aliens also seemed designed to persist, despite all efforts to change it. Some began to wonder if humans and aliens could ever safely coexist in the same spaces. Perhaps humanity's destiny was to remain forever isolated, quarantined on their home planet while the rest of the galaxy moved on without them. But Susan Garcia refused to accept that conclusion. "There's always a solution," she insisted to her exhausted team. "We just haven't found it yet." 1 year had passed since the start of Project Breathe. Progress remained slow despite the best efforts of scientists from both Earth and the Alliance. The toxic compounds in human breath continued to resist all attempts at neutralization. Tension grew as the deadline approached, with many beginning to lose hope of finding a solution. Alan Nguyen sat alone in the lab, long after most researchers had gone home for the night. As a graduate student assisting Dr. Garcia, he often worked late, running tests that the senior scientists didn't have time for. Tonight he was examining plant samples from around the world, looking for any natural substance that might break down the toxic compounds. He yawned and rubbed his eyes. This was his 57th plant sample today, and so far, none had shown promising results. He placed a leaf from a rare Amazon orchid into the testing chamber and started the analysis program. Alan stood up to stretch his legs while the computer worked. He walked to the window and looked out at the Geneva night. Somewhere up there, Alliance ships watched Earth, waiting to see if humans would prove too dangerous to join the galactic community. A beeping sound from his computer caught his attention. Alan hurried back to his station and stared at the screen, in disbelief. "That can't be right," he muttered, running the test again. The results came back the same. His hands shaking with excitement, Alan called Dr. Garcia. "Susan, you need to come back to the lab right now," he said when she answered. "I found something big." 30 minutes later, Dr. Garcia stood beside Alan looking at the test results with wide eyes. "The orchid completely neutralized the toxin," Alan explained. "Its enzymes break down the compound into harmless components. And it's not just this species. I've tested 3 other plants from the same region with similar results." "Plants from the Amazon?" Susan asked, her mind racing with possibilities. Alan nodded. "It's almost as if Earth evolved its own solution. These plants have been counteracting our toxicity for thousands of years." Susan grabbed his shoulders. "Alan, do you understand what this means? We don't need to change human biology. We just need to use what nature already created." Word of the breakthrough spread quickly. Within days, a team was dispatched to the Amazon to collect more specimens. Bioengineers began working to synthesize the enzyme on a large scale, while architects designed spaces where the plants could be used to create safe meeting areas for humans and aliens. For the first time in months, hope returned to Project Breathe. In orbit around Jupiter, the Alliance had established a mobile embassy, a massive space station where representatives could meet without coming to Earth. It was here that Ambassador Jack Murphy, a seasoned diplomat, traveled for the first official meeting since the disastrous first contact. He wore a newly designed containment suit that filtered his breath through a synthetic version of the Amazon enzyme. The suit was bulky and uncomfortable, but it worked. Tests had confirmed that it removed 99.8% of the toxic compounds from his exhalations. Ambassador Zarak had survived the first contact incident, though he still suffered from occasional breathing difficulties. As the senior Alliance diplomat assigned to human relations, he waited in the embassy's main chamber as Murphy's shuttle docked. "Ambassador Murphy," Zarak said as the human entered, "your presence here is a significant step forward." "Thank you for this opportunity," Murphy replied, his voice slightly muffled by his suit. "Earth is grateful for the Alliance's patience during this difficult time." The two diplomats sat at opposite ends of a long table. Though Murphy's suit made him safe to be around, old fears died hard, and many Alliance species remained cautious of close contact with humans. "I've reviewed the reports about your plant discovery," Zarak said. "A fascinating solution." "Nature often provides answers we couldn't find ourselves," Murphy said. "We're proposing a way forward based on this discovery." Murphy activated a holographic display showing Earth's proposal. "We seek peaceful coexistence with the Alliance. While we continue to develop technologies that will allow us to interact safely with your species, we propose a virtual diplomatic relationship and limited physical contact under strict safety protocols." The proposal included plans for containment gardens, special facilities surrounded by genetically modified versions of the Amazon orchids. These gardens would create safe spaces where humans could meet with alien visitors without endangering them. "We understand that full integration into the Alliance may take years or even decades," Murphy continued, "but we believe this approach offers a realistic path forward." Zarak considered the proposal. The moderate factions within the Alliance had been pushing for exactly this kind of solution, one that maintained safety while opening the door to future cooperation. "There will be resistance from some council members," Zarak warned. "Many still view Earth as a potential threat rather than a potential partner. We are prepared to demonstrate our commitment to peace," Murphy assured him. "Earth has no hostile intentions toward the Alliance or any of its member species." After hours of discussion, Zarak agreed to present Earth's proposal to the Alliance Council. It wasn't full acceptance, but it was a start. Earth would remain quarantined for now, but would be granted observer status within the Alliance and limited access to non-military technologies. When Ambassador Murphy returned to Earth, he brought news of cautious optimism. The diplomatic channels had reopened, and with them the possibility of a future where humans and aliens could coexist. Construction began immediately on the first containment garden at the United Nations headquarters in New York. Engineers worked with botanists to create a space where the Amazon orchids and related plants could thrive, creating a bubble of safety within which diplomatic meetings could take place. Dr. Garcia visited the construction site with Alan, watching as workers installed special air filtration systems and planting beds. "Do you think it will really work?" Alan asked. "Will they ever truly accept us?" Susan looked thoughtful. "Acceptance takes time. Right now, we're still the dangerous species that kills with our breath, but eventually they'll see us as more than that." "And if they don't?" Alan pressed. "Then we keep trying," she said firmly. "This is just the first step." The first test of the containment garden came 3 months later. A delegation of Alliance scientists, including Glivtik, visited Earth to inspect the facility and verify its safety. They wore protective suits as an extra precaution, but monitors showed that the air within the garden was free of human toxins. "Remarkable engineering," Glivtik commented as he examined a readout. "The plants are even more effective in this concentrated setting than our models predicted." Dr. Miller, who had been chosen to host the Alliance scientists, smiled with pride. "We've already begun establishing similar gardens in other major cities. Within a year, we hope to have meeting facilities on every continent." As the visit concluded, Glivtik removed his helmet, a symbolic gesture that made headlines across Earth. It was the first time since the disastrous first contact that an alien had directly breathed the same air as humans, albeit air filtered by the special plants. "A small step," Glivtik said, "but an important one." The image of the alien scientist standing helmetless beside human researchers became a powerful symbol of possibility. Perhaps humans weren't destined for isolation after all. Perhaps, with patience and ingenuity, they could find their place in the galactic community despite their biological differences. The containment gardens represented hope, a fragile, carefully maintained hope, but hope nonetheless. The containment gardens had been operating successfully for 6 months. Diplomatic meetings between humans and Alliance representatives took place regularly, though always under careful supervision. Trust was growing slowly but steadily. Then, everything changed when Professor Kevin Walsh published his report. As a military strategist at West Point, Walsh had been asked to analyze the strategic implications of humanity's unique biology. His report was supposed to remain classified, but somehow it leaked to the public. Within hours, news outlets across Earth were discussing its contents. "Human breath, the ultimate defense," read one headline. "Are we naturally armed against alien threats?" asked another. The report itself was clinical and analytical, but its implications were explosive. It outlined how human biology could potentially be weaponized against hostile alien species. "We need to acknowledge the elephant in the room," the report stated. "Humanity possesses a natural biological defense mechanism against every known spacefaring species. This gives us leverage in a galaxy where we are technologically inferior." The report went on to suggest that, in case of conflict, humans could use their toxic breath as a last resort defensive measure. Though Walsh had intended this as a theoretical discussion of worst-case scenarios, many readers interpreted it as advocating for biological warfare. The reaction from the Alliance was swift and severe. Several species immediately cut diplomatic ties with Earth. The moderate coalition that had supported coexistence began to fracture as fears resurfaced. Ambassador Murphy watched in dismay as months of careful diplomacy unraveled. He immediately issued a statement distancing the Earth government from Walsh's views. "The report represents one individual's analysis, not official policy," Murphy insisted during an emergency broadcast. "Earth remains committed to peaceful coexistence and would never weaponize our biological differences." But the damage was done. Hardline factions within the Alliance pointed to the report as evidence that humans were inherently dangerous and potentially aggressive. Admiral Elizabeth Morris of the newly formed United Earth Space Command received urgent orders from the Security Council. She needed to perform damage control before the situation deteriorated further. "We need to show complete transparency," she told her staff during a crisis meeting. "If the Alliance believes we're hiding military applications of our biology, we'll never regain their trust." Admiral Morris, known for her direct approach, made an unprecedented offer. She invited Alliance military observers to witness Earth's defensive capabilities and limitations firsthand. 3 days later, a group of Alliance military representatives arrived at the Space Command headquarters in Colorado. They wore their environmental suits despite the building's containment garden. "Welcome to Earth Space Command," Admiral Morris greeted them. "Over the next 3 days, you will have access to our training facilities, defense systems, and strategic planning rooms. We have nothing to hide." The leader of the Alliance delegation, a stern warrior from the Krell species named Commander Vosh, regarded her skeptically. The Krell resembled large armored insects with multiple compound eyes that missed nothing. "Your openness is noted," Vosh said, "but it does not erase concerns raised by Professor Walsh's analysis." "That's why you're here," Morris replied evenly, "to see for yourselves that Earth seeks peaceful integration with the galactic community. We view our biological difference as a shield, not a sword." The tour proceeded through various facilities. The Alliance observers saw Earth's primitive space defenses, their limited fleet of combat-capable ships, and their early warning systems. They also reviewed containment protocols that prevented human breath from being collected or concentrated. "As you can see," Morris explained as they entered a secure laboratory. "We've implemented strict controls to ensure our biology cannot be weaponized. Every research facility studying the compounds is monitored by international inspectors." "Commander." Vosh seemed to be softening his position slightly, but other observers remained suspicious. One asked pointed questions about human military expansion plans, while another carefully documented everything she saw. While the military tour was underway, a different kind of movement was gaining strength on Earth. A group calling itself terrestrial sovereignty had emerged in response to the continuing restrictions placed on human activities by the Alliance. "Humans first" became their rallying cry. They argued that Earth should use its biological advantage to claim territory and resources in the solar system, rather than accepting second-class status in the galactic community. Most people dismissed them as extremists, but their message resonated with those who felt humanity was compromising too much for alien acceptance. Joe Parker, a charismatic former military officer, led the group. He appeared on news programs arguing that the Amazon plants and containment suits were giving away humanity's only advantage. "Why should we change ourselves to accommodate them?" he demanded during one heated debate. "We evolved this way for a reason. Perhaps that reason is to ensure our supremacy in our own solar system." Government officials tried to marginalize these views, but the movement continued to grow, especially in regions where economic hardship made people susceptible to Parker's message of human exceptionalism. The first violent incident occurred at a containment garden in Brussels. An international summit between human and Alliance trade representatives was underway when a man identified as Carl Wright, a known member of terrestrial sovereignty, entered the facility. Security cameras captured what happened next. Wright approached the meeting area, waited until he was close to the Alliance representatives, then deliberately removed his breathing apparatus. "Breathe freedom," he shouted, exhaling directly toward 3 alien delegates. Security personnel tackled Wright immediately, but not before he had exposed the aliens to unfiltered human breath. Emergency protocols activated, and the affected delegates received immediate medical treatment. All 3 survived due to rapid intervention, but the attack was classified as an act of bioterrorism. Wright was arrested and imprisoned, but the damage to trust was severe. The attack confirmed the worst fears of many Alliance species, that humans might deliberately use their toxic biology as a weapon. Ambassador Murphy worked tirelessly to repair relations, emphasizing that Wright represented a tiny minority and that his actions had been condemned by all major Earth governments. "We cannot be held responsible for the actions of every individual," Murphy argued during an emergency meeting of the Alliance Council, "just as we do not hold entire Alliance species responsible for the actions of extremists among them." Alliance moderates rallied behind this argument, pointing out that every civilization had its radical elements, but the hardliners used the Brussels incident to push for stricter controls on human activities. New restrictions were imposed. Alliance vessels increased their patrols of Earth orbit. Technology transfers were suspended. The path to integration, that had seemed promising just months earlier, now appeared blocked by suspicion and fear. Admiral Morris watched these developments with growing concern. Her military advisors warned that some Alliance factions might use the Brussels incident as justification for more aggressive action against Earth. "We need to prepare for the worst while still hoping for the best," she told the Security Council. "If certain elements within the Alliance decide humans are too dangerous to exist, we must be ready to defend ourselves." Quietly, Earth's defenses were strengthened. New weapon systems designed specifically to counter Alliance technology were developed and deployed. Military leaders hoped these preparations would never be needed, but no one was willing to leave Earth unprotected. The question that had once seemed philosophical now took on urgent, practical importance. Could humans and aliens ever truly coexist, or was conflict inevitable? 5 years had passed since first contact. Both humanity and the Alliance had changed in ways no one could have predicted. After the Brussels incident, relations had reached their lowest point, with some Alliance factions openly calling for Earth's permanent isolation or worse. But then, slowly, things began to improve. Dr. Garcia's team had achieved a breakthrough that changed everything. They developed what became known as neutralizer implants, small devices that could be surgically inserted near human lungs to eliminate the toxic compounds before exhalation. The early versions were bulky and required monthly maintenance, but they worked. Humans with implants could interact safely with aliens without containment suits or special gardens. The implants were expensive to produce and install, but for diplomats, scientists, and others who needed regular contact with Alliance species, they were worth the cost. Henry Rogers was among the first civilians to receive an implant. As a linguist, specializing in alien languages, he had volunteered for the experimental procedure. "It feels strange," he told Dr. Garcia during his follow-up appointment. "Knowing that something inside me is changing my breath." "The implant only filters out the toxic compounds," she reminded him. "It doesn't affect your oxygen intake or carbon dioxide output. Medically, you're still completely human." Henry nodded. "I know that rationally. But there's something symbolic about it, isn't there? We're changing ourselves to accommodate them." This sentiment was common among the first implant recipients. Some viewed it as a necessary compromise, while others worried about what humanity might be giving up in its quest for galactic acceptance. Meanwhile, on the Alliance side, certain species had begun developing limited immunity through controlled exposure therapy. The krill, an insectoid species known for their rapid adaptability, could now withstand brief exposure to human breath with only minor symptoms. Ambassador Zarak met with Captain Wright, who had been promoted to lead Human Alliance military cooperation. "The krill adaptation is promising," Zarak noted. "It suggests that over time some Alliance species may naturally evolve to tolerate human presence." "Evolution takes generations," Linda replied, "but it's a start." The most significant development came from an unexpected direction. Frank Patel, a geneticist working with Dr. Garcia, discovered that Human Alliance hybrids were theoretically possible through advanced genetic engineering. "It's not about creating mixed offspring in the traditional sense," Frank explained to the Science Council. "Rather, we can combine specific genetic traits to create individuals who share characteristics of both humans and certain Alliance species." "And these hybrids would lack the toxic breath compounds?" asked a council member. "According to our models, yes," Frank confirmed. "They would have human-like respiratory systems but without the toxic element." The proposal was controversial. Many humans feared it represented the first step toward erasing humanity as it currently existed. Some religious groups objected on moral grounds, arguing that such genetic manipulation crossed ethical boundaries. Within the Alliance, reactions were similarly mixed. Progressive factions saw it as the ultimate solution to the biological barrier, while conservatives worried about contaminating their genetic heritage. Despite the controversy, plans moved forward for a volunteer program. The first to step forward was Commander Olivia Baker, a decorated astronaut who had lost her husband during a terrorist attack on an Alliance outpost. The attack had been perpetrated by extremists from the Terrestrial Sovereignty Group, and Olivia saw volunteering as a way to heal the wounds between humans and aliens. "My husband believed in a future where humans and the Alliance could work together," she told reporters the day before her procedure. "I'm doing this for him, and for all of us who want that future." The procedure took place under intense security, at a special facility in orbit around Earth. A team of human and Alliance genetic specialists worked for 18 hours straight. When it was over, Olivia emerged with subtle physiological changes, slightly altered skin tone, marginally different eye structure, and most importantly, breath that contained no toxic elements. She became a symbol of possibility, neither fully human nor alien, but something new. Someone who could move freely between both worlds without barriers or protective measures. 6 months after Olivia's procedure, long-range Alliance sensors detected unusual signals from deep space. The patterns resembled nothing in the Alliance database but showed clear signs of artificial origin. A research vessel was dispatched to investigate. What they discovered sent shockwaves through both human and Alliance societies. The signals came from an unknown species approaching Alliance space, a species that appeared to share the same biological characteristics as humans. Alliance scientists confirmed that the atmosphere aboard the alien vessels contained the same compounds found in human breath. These new aliens, who called themselves the Novan, could kill with their breath just like humans. "This changes everything," Ambassador Murphy told the emergency session of Earth's Security Council. "We're not alone anymore. There are others like us out there." The discovery transformed how the Alliance viewed humans. Suddenly, understanding human biology wasn't just about accommodating one unusual species, it was about preparing for contact with an entire branch of galactic life previously unknown. Diplomatic missions from Earth and the Alliance traveled together to meet the Novan delegation. Olivia Baker led the human team, while Glivtik represented the Alliance. Together, they established the first three-way diplomatic protocol in galactic history. The Novan revealed that they too had struggled with their toxic biology, having discovered its effects when they encountered other life forms in their region of space. They had developed technologies similar to Earth's neutralizer implants but more advanced and efficient. "We searched for others like us for generations," the Novan ambassador told Olivia. "Finding Earth is like discovering long-lost family." As news of the Novan spread, both humans and the Alliance realized they stood at a crossroads. The galaxy was more complex and diverse than anyone had imagined. The biological incompatibility that had once seemed like an insurmountable barrier now appeared as just one of many evolutionary paths. Dr. Garcia watched a broadcast of the first official meeting between Earth, Alliance, and Novan representatives. Beside her sat Alan Nguyen, now the head of his own research team. "Do you remember when we thought we might be quarantined forever?" Alan asked. "That humans would always be the dangerous species no one wanted to be near?" Susan smiled. "Science kept moving forward. We kept searching for answers. That's what humans do." On the screen, Olivia Baker stood between representatives of two vastly different civilizations, a living bridge between worlds that had once seemed impossibly distant. "What happens next?" Alan wondered. "We keep adapting," Susan replied. "All of us humans, Alliance, Novans, that's how life works. We find ways to coexist, to overcome our differences, to create something new together." The Alliance and humanity now faced the future as partners rather than adversaries. What had begun as a biological incompatibility had evolved into a complex symbiotic relationship, and somewhere in the stars, other species waited to be discovered, each with their own unique challenges and gifts to bring to the growing community of intelligent life. It wasn't a perfect solution. There would always be tensions and disagreements. But the path forward was clear now, illuminated by science, diplomacy, and the simple determination to find a way to live together, despite all odds.